Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for my rational perspective on Crystal Palace 1, Chelsea 4. A dominant display by Chelsea tonight at Selhurst Park. The first time under Thomas Tuchel, finally we've scored more than 2 goals in a single game under him. A really enjoyable and impressive attacking performance from Chelsea tonight. The sort of performance, attacking-wise, that I think a lot of us hoped we would have seen a little bit more of this season with the attacking talent at our disposal. In particular, since Tuchel has arrived, it's been more about really shoring up that defence and really being clinical when the chances arise, rather than being really a team with a lot of flair within it. And we do know this team does have that capacity with certain players who absolutely thrived tonight. I think 2 in particular, Christian Pulisic and Kai Havertz, who both of them were wonderful. I think Christian Pulisic, 4-4 against Crystal Palace, loves playing against them, but also just tonight for me was the Pulisic we witnessed at the back end of last season. Finally, it's taken him a long time this season with injury concerns, his fitness, his form, his confidence, but he's getting back into some form now that I think is really encouraging for the rest of the season. 2 goals tonight, a goal last week against West Brom. I think it's going to do him the world of good. I really do. And we'll get into that performance. Kai Havertz, I mean, that's why Chelsea spent so much money on him last summer. You know, the sort of the optimism we had with Kai coming in was his versatility, but also his movement, his ability to dictate games, to really take games by the scruff of neck, be that player that you can trust and rely on. And I think that Kai Havertz was showing everything. In particular, that first half, I think he could have scored more goals tonight rather than just, the 1 goal he scored, the opening goal. But overall, his game as well was so impressive. I think his movement was just exemplary. And really across the team, you could be really happy. The only moment you can really criticise tonight, I think, was, of course, the goals of Christian Benteke. But other than that, Chelsea limited Crystal Palace to barely anything in front of our goal. And I think Chelsea could have scored about 7 or 8 tonight. It was that good from an offensive side of the game. In terms of that starting lineup, a few surprises. Christensen, apparently an injury late going into this game, so we didn't expect that, but Kurt Zouma coming in for him. Callum Hudson-Odoi starting for the first time in the Premier League since the 5th of March, I think it was, against Everton, or the 8th of March actually. So the Everton game when he played at left wing, back at right wing back where he started his sort of time under Thomas Tuchel. Georgie Cover, Chilwell keeping his place instead of Marcus Alonso coming back in, Pulisic, Havertz and Mount. I think one of the best elements tonight was that counter press. It's been one of the best elements of Thomas Tuchel's game so far at Chelsea. But the way we pressed and forced Crystal Palace back, I think when you play Crystal Palace, it's pretty obvious what's going to go down. A bit like earlier in the season when we beat them convincingly 4-0. It took us about 50 or so minutes to break them down, and then the goals started to come in for Chelsea. It was a little bit different tonight. It worked the other way where Chelsea really took the game to Palace early on. I think the counter press, in particular the way it worked for that first goal, Kai Havertz drifting in and out of space, but also pressing up to win the ball back after losing it. I think you could see very early on Chelsea were on it. The mentality that was so wrong against West Brom was brilliant tonight. It really was from the off, and there was no messing about. There was no complacency by Chelsea players tonight. The way we were switching the ball, switching plays, trying to find Callum Hudson-Odoi, the way we switched the ball continuously all night from left to right was really fluid, really precise and really impressive and effective, because against a narrow back four, it really made life difficult for Crystal Palace. And that first goal, it was the swivel, it was the smart movement from Kai, but it was also the finish. It was a delicate, subtle finish as well. It wasn't a smashed finish. It was just him finding the corner perfectly. And, there's been so much discussion in recent days about the Chelsea striker conundrum, whether other players like Tammy Abraham or Olivier Giroud deserve more minutes. Well, Kai Havertz playing as that number 9, I actually felt some of the criticism of Kai after Wednesday was a little bit overboard, because I felt when you've actually watched Kai's individual performances, he has impressed me. I think out of all the attackers so far in that front three, with the exception of Mason Mount, I think he's looked the most confident and fluid and sort of effective in that number 9 role, rather than anyone else Tuchel has played so far. And you saw it tonight, and it just got Chelsea off to the perfect start. And then Christian Pulisic, Kai involved again. That movement, buzzing around Crystal Palace. They just couldn't withstand Chelsea's movement in that first half. The play, especially from deep from Georgie and Cover, was wonderful tonight. Both of them deserve a lot of praise. I think the way they shifted the ball, switched play, were so quick with the ball at their feet, getting it out of feet too. I think they deserve a lot of praise. But Christian Pulisic, the anticipation in the box from that left side, It was quite similar to the goal he scored at Selhurst Park last year in the same kit, if you remember, getting it out on his left foot and then smashing it into the top corner. No messing around. There was no subtlety to that finish. But Christian Pulisic once again showing his eye for goal. And it was, it completely knocked Palace out. I think that, one goal, it knocks them back in terms of their game plan, but a second goal straight after that, just Chelsea being so ruthless and just going for the throats of Crystal Palace. I think at times I get frustrated with Chelsea when we try and sit a little bit back, try and be a little bit more cautious, just hold on to the ball. I think the fact that Chelsea in that first half saw that Palace were there to be got at and went for them, I think was a beauty to behold. It really was. It was just a electric start to the game and woke us all up. I think, if we were feeling a little bit sluggish before this game, Chelsea woke us up, and Chelsea were just brilliant, took a hold of the game. The third goal in particular, great to see Kurt, who'd got close at a few corners. He scored so many from set pieces, and it's been a bit of a shame actually because his threat from set pieces, a cross into the box from Mason Mount, brilliant cross in by Mason to get that assist. Fortunately, Kurt hasn't been a main centre back for Thomas Tuchel this season, so we've missed, I think, his aerial threat for different reasons. Christensen and Thiago Silva in particular. Christensen has done so well, but Kurt took his opportunity, got that third goal, and I just think that midfield too. I think you've got to give credit to both Georgie and Cover, the way they won their tackles, won their battles, and just constantly switching play. I think that was something that impressed me, the pattern of play that we saw very early on in Tuchel's reign, where we were switching it from left to right. We saw that again tonight to great effect. I think we did expect that the second half wasn't going to be as electric. I think the high standards of that first half from Chelsea, I did expect a little bit of a drop-off. I also expected Palace to come out a little bit more and not be as dire, I think, in terms of them just accepting defeat, it felt like, in that first half. And also, just the perfect levels of Chelsea. But there were still some moments there where I felt that Chelsea could have scored more tonight. I felt that Callum could have maybe got himself on the score sheet, be a little bit more daring. We saw Kai get a few more opportunities. I just think all around Christian Pulisic for me, I think what gives Christian Pulisic my personal man in the match tonight is that second half performance, just because I think he was involved from deep as well. You saw so many occasions in that second half where the game opened up and it came from Christian Pulisic getting the ball, sometimes even behind the halfway line, switching the play, twisting himself and just driving forward, and it opened up the pitch. Mason receiving it on the half turn and then usually finding Callum Hudson-Odoi on the right wing in space. It was just constantly there, that space, and Chelsea exploited it and finally got their fourth goal later in the game because of it. Christian Benteke, he doesn't seem to score many goals now, but he loves scoring against Chelsea. It was a really sloppy piece of play. I think Ben Chilwell, you can look towards him at that back post, but also just the way Chelsea allowed Schlupp to get that space and get the ball into the box. Chelsea were immaculate defensively, like they have been for a majority of the time under Thomas Tuchel. It was just a sloppy piece of play, and at that moment, it's 3-1, and you are starting to think, if they get a second here somehow, it's going to really change the complexion of the game. But I do think the way Chelsea just reasserted themselves, got back to playing sharp football, I think the mentality to not let that happen, to not let any more opportunities on Mendy's goal was really impressive. So I think Chelsea, in terms of game management from that scenario, I think was once again impressive, and Chelsea just got back to doing what they were doing, which was absolutely dominating the game and forcing Crystal Palace back and creating more opportunities. I think Kai could have scored about 4 tonight. There were several moments where his movement's so impressive that I think if he keeps on playing and keeps on getting to those spaces, I think he will score 3 or 4 in some games. I just think that finishing could have been a little bit more ruthless. I think he tried with all of his best chances tonight to try and do what he did in the first instance with his first goal tonight, was try and subtly curl it round or just place it. I think sometimes with Christian Pulisic, what he showed in the first half with both of his finishes, just absolutely larraping the ball into the back of the net, and maybe that's what Kai needs to add to his game a little bit more. But I felt the movement from all the attackers tonight was so impressive. And Reece James coming off Callum Hudson-Odoi, I think that was mainly down to Palace probably getting back into the game a little bit more, feeling that they could get another goal, really shutting down Wilfried Zaha and their biggest threats tonight. And Reece James finally getting some justice for a brilliant cross into the box. Gareth Gale tried his best to stop it, but it finally went to Christian Pulisic to drill it in, get his second of the night. Game over. Great to see Pulisic. I really hope Pulisic now, I was having that discussion a few days ago about sort of the rest of his season, those injury concerns. He's recovered quickly. How Tuchel manages that, because, he has been quite fragile this season in terms of injury, but in this form, you want Christian Pulisic because he's got such anticipation to be in the box in the right place, and I think that's something from a wide player is so impressive. And I just think Pulisic's all-round game in the build-up, also finishing chances tonight, I think it was just so outstanding that I think should take note. And I think Pulisic will be absolutely in contention, not only to start against Porto on Tuesday, but also in the FA Cup semi-final against Man City, because I don't think there are many other players at the moment really taking their opportunity. So I think that Pulisic has absolutely put himself right at the front of the queue to play in some big games with Chelsea, because I think he deserves it. A big win, a vital 3 points. It puts pressure on West Ham tomorrow. I think they are away to Leicester. At home to Leicester to get the 3 points once again. You know, Chelsea simply had to win this game. There was no excuses, and Chelsea put Crystal Palace to the sword. They really did. There was really no drama at the end. Yes, they scored the goal, but now Chelsea move on to that game against Porto, the second leg on Tuesday. Tuchel, I think, will rotate, and then we've got Man City. It's going to be so intense. But I just think tonight, the attacking side of the game, the flair, the extroverted side to our game, I think has been limited at times this season, has been a little bit underwhelming. At times quite underwhelming, I think was really encouraging for me. And it shows what Chelsea can be with the great attacking young talents we have in this team. You know, if Chelsea next season in particular, maybe when Tuchel has had a pre-season to really get his ideas across a little bit more, I think Chelsea do have the ability to play some wonderful football with this current crop of players. But those are my thoughts on today's game. Let me know your man of the match and your thoughts. Hit that subscribe button and the like button so you don't miss any of the content on the channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again.